compliance, and we're discovering different reporting attributes necessarily from a new implementation standpoint to people who've been living and breathing within the system for as long as they have. Is there's so many different reporting options out there. What are the differences? What does each promote? What's the benefit of using one versus the other, and things like that? Because you'll hear us throw out terms like, you've got the Excel reports that you can run. There's always the out-of-the-box GP report, SRS reports, all these different type of reporting methods that are available. So what's the difference? What does each one have to offer, and how can you make it work for you, and which one should you work with? So, if I was to just throw them all up on the screen, pretty interesting to kind of look at those and try to discern which one it is. If you have a keen eye, you'll pick them out and go, oh, okay, I've seen that, okay. So you start to understand what each one is, but there's those four, at least those four different options, if not more, out there with ISVs and such. But getting an idea of what each one of those can promote is where you start. So what's some of the key differences? So starting first with the GP reports. You know these. You've seen them, you've worked with them, you've learned to hate them, you've learned to love them. Whichever relationship that you have with them, you may have different relationships with some versus the other, but they are meant to be, a formalized report, out of the box, functional, running off of the data in the system. Some of them may take longer to run than others, especially as you start to accumulate more data. So historical stock status reports, we get more and more about that every day. That takes so long for this to run. We leave it overnight, whatever it may be. But that's kind of the idea. Now, there was the issue where, okay, how do I send this to a PDF? How do I take this report, send it to a PDF? That was a deficiency. If you had Adobe Acrobat, it worked well. They're making strides now where I did a panel here recently. You can find our blog post for it, but any one of these GP reports out of the box now can be converted to one of the Word templates. So it can be converted into a Word format, which then is easier to send out using the GP version of the report.
You going to show us how to do that?
I will. I would love to have that be a topic for a later session to work. No, not today. I did. I'm so sorry. But the step-by-step documents actually are out on our website. We do have a blog post with it where it walks through those steps. So by all means, get out there, take a look at it, if you have additional questions. So the next one, and you hear the term thrown all around, and they are continuing to take SRS reports to the next level in Dynamics GP and other applications, are the SRS reports. So the benefits of these, they have multiple roles that they can play. They can play both the informal and formalized roles. So you can throw them up into graphics, graphs of kind, bar charts, things of that sort that are out there. You can also throw them into more of a formalized report, make them clean cut so that when they're printed, they show up and are laid out in the way that you want. They display the columns. They aren't overflowing. And it's a set data set at that point. There's no manipulation of the way that that data looks unless somebody would pull it up and export it to Excel. So SRS has deployment with GP. So whenever you install GP 2010 and on, there are SRS reports that get deployed out of the box. If they're not deployed, we'll take a look at how you determine whether or not SRS reports are actually deployed in the next session that I speak in. So that's the idea, is that they're customized. There's the out-of-the-box options. There are customizations that can be put into place. There are sessions that we can do where you learn to do that. I've held several of those before, and usually by the end of the session, I have people that have really taken off and created some things while we're working through it. These are Windows authentication driven, which means that a user to access those types of reports does not have to be a GP user. They don't have to be licensed for GP. As long as they are window authenticated, they are set up correctly in SQL Server and so on, then they can access these reports. So you lose that need for, I need to be able to see the data, but I'm not going to pay for a license to do it. Can you just send it to me? So these types of things work well in those cases. And then I think the biggest benefit that I have in the way that I usually gear these is that an SRS report can be very finely tuned in the data set that it's returning, so they can be quicker. So they can have a very defined set. Think about anytime you're running a smart list, out-of-the-box smart list, it is based off of a query that is your entire data set to begin with. If I was to go in and run financial account transactions today, and anybody that's been running the system for 7+ years, it takes forever. There's millions of records potentially that are out there. So the benefit of this and things that I've worked through before with individuals is paring down that data set into an SRS report so that it returns a smaller set of data. So go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the other benefits of an SRS report is the ability to export nicely to Excel. that has the advantage over the GP report.
And that is a nice thing. Like if I was to take that report example that was here and export it to Excel, it keeps the exact formatting. And it also exports in the way that if the report would have grouping added into it or anything, it actually picks up the native Excel grouping functionality where it's got plus signs on the left-hand side where you can click them and it'll expand and everything once it throws it out into Excel. These also export nicely to PDF. So there's PDF, Word, TIFF, Excel. I think HTML too is thrown in there. So there's a lot of different ways you can export those just by hitting that little icon that you see up there with the save symbol. So you can export those out. The next one, and you've heard it, Bill and Diane have been up here talking about it. You understand, and you haven't had it beaten into your head now what my management reporter is there for. It is your financial reporting system, right? So they are meant to be formal. They are meant to get facing in front of a bank, an accountant, somebody along those lines. They are not meant to be manipulated. So the data is as it is. That's how it should stay. If it's not right on the first time, you fix the report, you rerun it. You don't export it to Excel and do any type of doctoring to it at that point. So, deficiencies there, and the bullet that I have on there is the majority of these are customized to each company. So whenever you get management reporter going in your first steps of an implementation or any new reports, very few out-of-the-box reports with management reporter, at least in the standpoint that everything has to be set up for segments and pointing to your GL account structure. Now, if you picked up the wonderful Fabricam out-of-the-box account structure, everybody'd be ready to go. But it doesn't work that way. It might be GAP certified, but it's not accountant certified. So those are kind of the ideas behind there. They're meant to be the financial records for the company, formalized, never changed, exactly as they are when they deploy out. And then the last one, and they are making great strides to adding these in. I didn't add more onto this just because I like these more, but they're formal, informal applications. I've seen people use them for both sides of it. And the benefit of an Excel report is exactly that. It's an Excel. You understand Excel. You've hopefully used Excel, and you constantly see the new versions are adding new functionality, all sorts of different things that you can use for them. So this reporting option out of the box can have formal, informal applications. I would say it has more of an informal application side to it, where you're looking for more of a graph and a KPI type look. But I have seen individuals construct them in ways of, data sets and things that are driven that people want to look at. And they're great for ad hoc reporting. So the benefit that gives you is instead of somebody having to go out and mine this data, make sure that they ran the entire plus 1,000 records in SmartList and then export it to Excel and slicing and dicing it and then coming back to you with a pivot table report, you say, you forgot to expand your data set, and you're missing about 100,000 worth of whatever. The benefit of these is that these are bolted onto GP data. They're linked up to the data source. They're pulling data directly from GP, which means that at any point in an Excel report, you can refresh that data set and it pulls new data in, which means that if I was to, like you see in the examples up here of the dashboards that are out here, if I was to go in and refresh that data set, all of a sudden my bars move automatically. So that's the benefit behind these is that these are live data driven and able to be refreshed. And I'm going to show off some tips and tricks for these as we go through into the next session where how you can build these and work with them, and we'll also look at some of the other options that are constantly being added to it. If anybody doesn't know, these two specifically have been added into GP 2013 and on. So you actually have some dashboards that have already been created out there. So that's kind of the premise behind the four different main types of reporting methods that I most commonly get requested for. Obviously, there's ISVs and things out there. A lot of times you'll find that ISVs are actually utilizing some form of these types of reports that are out there in the first place. You'll see it, you'll recognize it. They'll pull up and say, look at this great dashboard, and you'll go, well, that's an SRS report. Well, yeah, that's what we're using to display the data, but the ISV has different ways of getting to it. So, but the questions, there's a lot of questions I know whenever I get into a discussion. How do we know which one to choose? Has anybody got into those types of discussions up to this point? Anything that I can help you identify how, where, why, what you would make things live out there. All right, so real quick, we'll hit Jason's question here, which was his, I think this is still to the, ready for a report group, more than one report in a report viewer, it will only allow you to view a report group in WebViewer. So I'm guessing that that's a question from the management reporter side. So Jason, just to answer your question, as you can hear us on the call, Diane's suggestion was to download a PDF printer, PDF or something along those lines, and then select it as you go to print. But we can definitely troubleshoot a little bit further with you on that side as you progress down that road. But other questions pertaining to the 4 different reporting options that I've covered today? Yeah.
Just re-emphasizing licensing. I don't know if I heard you say it correctly, but SQL Server Reports does require a SQL license. Okay, so again, we've been through this a lot. That if you tried to, the Business Analyzer app does not require a license. The Management Report Viewer does not require a license. The graphical SQL Server Reports require a SQL Server license. So we've got a project now, we're distributing them to 80 users. All they need is 80 SQL Server licenses, and they will use the Business Analyzer app to get both Management Reporter reports as well as SQL Server reports. So again, that's just to confirm licensing.
And there is a strategy that I've seen other individuals adopt too about.
I'm sure that would be on new custom reports, but any of the GP SQL Server report content, you'll have to have a SQL Server license to do that. And Sean's right. You could build new reports and use a strategy to avoid SQL licensing. However, out-of-the-box content, you need a SQL Server license.
Same concept for the Excel reports, which we'll see too. Those are all built off the window authentication and things driven within SQL Server to give access to the data points that are out there. Other questions?
So how many people are using all 4 different reporting options? Who's using them all? Anyone?
Excel reports? You? SRS reports? You. Okay. GP reports, obviously, somebody at some point. And then management reporter. So.
You know, Sean, one of the things that you didn't say about Excel reports that I found particularly useful is that they run tremendously faster than the same report in SmartList or inside GP.
Yep.
So if you've got a report that takes a while to run inside GP, if you can create an Excel refreshable report to do the same thing, it'll run very quickly. I've got a client that's aging runs in seconds that would take him 30 minutes.
Stay tuned because I do cover that.
Okay.
How do you find out?
And we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Go ahead.
How do you find out whether or not you have access to that?
Stay tuned.
Oh, okay.
GP reports will be obvious. They're not in the menu. The Excel SRS reports, I will cover those here in just a moment. Management reporter reports, it's the viewer. It's all driven through there. So, other questions? So.
Break time. Right. Great. Thank you, guys. Have a good way to
Real quick, Stephanie just threw a question in. Let me answer this real quick before we get. So we use SRS, MR, GP reports right now. They take longer to run than they did in FRX. Is that common, Diane? I guess it depends on the complexity that's in them. Maybe they just be fine-tuned a little bit.
It depends what detail level you're running the management reporter reports at, because you can run it, at the summary financial level. You can run it down to the account level, or if you have the report set to actually run at the transaction level, it does slow things down. I have noticed, though, overall, management reporter is not any faster than FRX, and a lot of times takes a little bit longer to generate a report. So I think that is normal.